Hey guys, so today we're talking about the characteristics of living organisms. Now, before we get started, I want to ask you a question. What makes a living thing living? That's essentially the entire concept behind this particular lesson, where we'll be talking about all the characteristics of living organisms. So, the first one here is movement, then there's growth, then there's sensitivity, then reproduction, nutrition, respiration, and lastly, excretion. So here's the thing. I said that all of these characteristics are what make a living thing alive, right? But wouldn't you argue that some non living things also have these characteristics? Like a car can move. Doesn't that also classify it as living then? Of course not. So the trick that I'm trying to tell you here is that all seven of these characteristics need to be present in something in order to characterize it as living. So even if one of these is absent, you can't call it a living thing anymore. Alright, now let's look at each of these one by one. Okay, let's start with movement. Now, by definition, movement is the action taken by an organism that results in the change of position or place. Animals, for example, have the ability to move their bodies freely and fully. But what does that mean? That means animals can't only move their hands and feet, but they can also get from point A to point B. So essentially changing their place, right? But notice how I've only talked about animals. What about plants? How can you let me convince you that something rooted into the ground can move? Pause the video and give this a thought. So here's the thing. Plants don't move their bodies in a way that transfers them from one place to another, of course, but they do have very limited movement. Like if you look very closely, you will always notice that a sunflower is always facing the sun. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Alright, I think we're done with movement here. Let's move on to growth. So, by definition, growth is a permanent increase in the overall size and dry mass of an organism. Now, what is this new word I just used? This means the mass of an organism minus the water within an organism. Now, you probably also remember that 70% of our bodies are made up of water. So, when you subtract this mass, the leftover mass is what the dry mass is, or what calculates growth. So essentially, dry mass increases when there is growth and multiplication of our cells. That would explain our increasing height, the increasing length of our hair, and the healing of our skin after getting a cut. Alright, let's move on to characteristic number 3, that is sensitivity. This is essentially the detection of changes in the internal or external environment and our reaction to them. And the word we give to these changes in the environment is called stimulus. So we've got an internal stimulus and an external stimulus. So essentially, a stimulus itself is something that triggers a response, right? Now, external means coming from outside. So an external stimulus is something that triggers a response from us that's coming from the outside of our body. Like when you were a kid, I'm sure you touched something really hot by accident and immediately pulled your hand back. And of course, the waterworks followed. But what's important here is that that heat was an external stimulus, and that pulling back that you did was your body responding to that stimulus. Okay, so that covers external stimulus. Now, I'm pretty sure you understand already what internal means, right? Internal means coming from inside. You know, when your stomach starts growling and you have to run to the kitchen to eat something? That's your body's internal stimulus. And when you run to the kitchen to get food, that is your response to the stimulus. Alright, next up is reproduction. So, all living beings have the ability to make new organisms of the same species as themselves. But what does the word species mean? So, in simple terms, this is the same type of organism. For example, humans are one type of species, right? Speaking of humans, you also came from a pair of parents, right? And your parents came from another pair of parents who are your grandparents, and your grandparents came from another pair of parents, and so on. This is it. This is the concept of reproduction entirely. So, what's important to remember here is that by definition, members of the same species will be able to reproduce to make a fertile offspring. Let's break this down a little bit. So, offspring is just a fancier word for a kid, right? Now, that kid, if they grow up and have the ability to reproduce further and therefore become a parent and then become a grandparent and so on, that is what fertile means. So, these are two very important criteria that need to be met in order for something to be classified as one species. We'll discuss this a little bit more in the next topics. Right now, I want to know if I still have your attention. Answer this. Which one of the following is not a characteristic of living organisms? A. Growth, B. Reproduction, C. Photosynthesis, or D. Excretion? Pause the video, no cheating. Alright, so this one was pretty simple, right? You hopefully answered C, which was photosynthesis. While photosynthesis is an integral process in plants, it's not one of the 7 characteristics, right? Alright, let's take it up a notch now. You heard a loud bang. You quickly covered your ears to block the noise. What type of stimulus is this? Try to recall the part where I talked about sensitivity. Yep, this is an external stimulus. Also, there's no such thing as central stimulus, so don't get confused. Alright, back to our topic. We have reached the 5th characteristic, which is nutrition. Nutrition is the process of utilizing certain materials that contain stored energy, which is then used for growth, development, and activity of an organism. These materials that I've mentioned is essentially just food. But I want to remind you here that food while talking about animals and food while talking about plants are two very different things. I hope you know what difference I'm talking about here. I'll give you a hint. Think about where the food comes from. Does photosynthesis ring a bell? Yep, that's the difference. So plants make their own food via photosynthesis. Well, we know that animals have to take food from other sources because we can't make our own food, right? Now, it's important to remember that plants and animals both use respiration to release the energy that comes from their food in order to use it. Don't remember what respiration is? I've got you, because this is the 6th characteristic that we'll be looking at. So, we've almost made it to the end of the lesson. There's just 2 more characteristics to go. Pay attention. So, respiration is a chemical reaction by which the energy stores that we discussed in nutrition are released and utilized by the body. Now, this reaction happens within an organelle inside a cell, which is called the mitochondrion or mitochondria plural. And I bet you probably know this as the powerhouse of the cell. Now, here's why it's so important. This reaction that I'm showing you on the screen here is exactly what's happening within this mitochondria, which is why they're called the powerhouse essentially, because that's where all the energy is coming from. Alright, last but not least, excretion. This by definition is the removal of unwanted or toxic waste, which is made up of the byproducts of metabolic processes within the body of an organism. Lost me? Don't worry, let's break this down. Let's first talk about the difference between unwanted and toxic waste. So unwanted is something that isn't necessarily harmful towards the body, it's just there in excess or it's just extra, like water. Toxic, however, is something that is obviously harmful towards our body, right? It's in the word. Like urea, for example. Now, both water and urea are removed from our body via urination. So urination is essentially a form of excretion, right? And this excretory system in our body is called the renal system. But you must be wondering, where are these water and urea even coming from? Now, this is where the second part of the definition comes in, which is the byproducts of metabolic processes. Now, byproducts are these waste products that we talked about, like water and urea. And metabolic processes are the reactions that are essentially happening inside your body, like respiration that we just spoke about. So the byproducts of respiration are carbon dioxide and water, right? This water is what's excreted in the urine. Then there's the toxic waste urea, which comes from the breakdown of proteins. But how are we going to know when there's excess water or toxic waste in our body? Our body actually tells us. Does that sound familiar to you? We just did this in sensitivity, remember? So the urge to pee is essentially an internal stimulus. Once you actually give in to that stimulus, you go to the toilet to void yourself, is when it's excretion. So, are you noticing how all of these are linked together? That's the beauty of being alive. Fun fact, on a hot sunny day, when you start to sweat, you are also excreting water and urea then. I hope I haven't lost your attention. Wake up and answer this simple question for me. Which statement defines a species? Alright, now pause the video and really read every option carefully. And remember the two-part definition I told you? That's gonna come in handy here. If you answered C without going back in the lesson, I'm really proud of you. Remember, there's two parts to a species. They need to reproduce and they need to make a fertile offspring. Alright guys, look at this cute old lady. Hold your questions, this is gonna make sense. So this is Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren is here to help you remember all 7 of the characteristics that we just discussed. Check it out. Movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Mrs. Gren to the rescue, right? Notice how this is just a rearrangement of the list that we've been making from the start, so you should be familiar with these words already. Alright, before we wrap this up, I've got one last question for you. Do you recognize this word? If yes, do you think that this is living or non-living? Let's talk about this a little bit. So this is a virus. A virus is generally known to cause illnesses like the flu, right? But what does a virus even look like? A virus is, as you can see, not exactly a typical cell. It's basically just a string of genetic material surrounded by a protein layer, and that's it. Now here's the funny thing. Viruses can replicate, but not unless they enter a host cell. Now what's a host cell? A host cell is the cell that the virus is invading, which is technically coming from you. So what this virus is doing is that it's using your body cells and your energy to replicate. So essentially it's not reproducing by itself. Now let's come back to the structure of the virus itself. Do you see any mitochondria in there? No, right? So how's it gonna respire? Also, viruses neither grow, nor eat, nor move, nor excrete, or show sensitivity. It's pretty obvious, right? There's no shadow of doubt here. Viruses are absolutely non-living. We're gonna talk about viruses a little bit more in the upcoming lessons, but this should be enough for now. Recap time. So we started this lesson with an introduction to the characteristics. I named them all, and then I told you how each and every single one is defined, and I gave you a few examples here and there. Then I showed you how you can make connections between these characteristics like excretion and sensitivity, right? And then I introduced you to Mrs. Gren, who helped us quite a bit. And finally, I spoke to you about how viruses are non-living. And that's a wrap. That's the end of this lesson, and I hope you understood everything. I'll see you in the next one.